Doubt is like a cloud that hides the sun. It does not change the sun's existence, only your ability to see its light. There's something about you which is stronger than the mind, something that exists beyond the thoughts that come and go like waves on the surface of a vast ocean. Have you ever noticed how doubt appears in the mind and suddenly your entire world changes? Not because the world itself has changed, but because the lens through which you view it has become clouded. Today, we will explore this fascinating journey from doubt to certainty, from hesitation to unshakable success. But this is not about temporary motivation or quick fixes. This is about understanding the deeper nature of doubt itself and discovering the wisdom that has always been within you. Before we continue, I invite you to take one deep breath with me in this moment. Just for now, allow yourself to be fully present, not reaching into the future with worry, not grasping at the past with regret. Just here, just now. What is doubt, really? We experience it every day. This hesitation, this questioning, this uncertainty that prevents us from moving forward with conviction. But have you ever truly examined its nature? Doubt is not your enemy. This may sound surprising, but doubt is simply a function of the mind trying to protect you. It is like an overly cautious friend who means well, but often holds you back from your greatest adventures. The mind creates doubt because it fears the unknown. It prefers the familiar pain of where you are to the uncertain possibility of where you could be. The mind would rather stay in a cage with open doors than step into the vast unknown of freedom. Think about this. When was the last time you experienced profound doubt? Perhaps before an important decision, a significant change, or a bold new step in your life journey. In that moment, what was really happening? Your mind was calculating possibilities, weighing risks, trying to protect you from potential harm or disappointment. But here is the deeper truth. Beneath your doubt is almost always fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of loss, fear of success even. And beneath all fear is a fundamental misunderstanding about who you truly are. When we misunderstand our nature, we believe we are only this fragile body, this limited personality, this collection of memories and habits. From this perspective, doubt seems reasonable. After all, how could something so limited accomplish anything truly remarkable? But you are not merely what you appear to be on the surface. There exists within you a capacity for clarity, strength, and wisdom that remains largely untapped when doubt dominates your awareness. Consider a simple observation. Notice how in moments of emergency or great necessity, doubt often vanishes. When action is absolutely required, the mind's hesitation dissolves. This reveals something profound. Doubt is not an inherent quality of your being. It is a temporary state that can be transcended. Throughout human history, doubt has been recognized as perhaps the greatest obstacle to realizing our potential, not external circumstances, not lack of resources or opportunity, but this internal state of uncertainty that prevents wholehearted engagement with life. When we study the lives of those who have accomplished remarkable things, whether in arts, sciences, spiritual practice, or service to humanity, we find a common quality, not the absence of doubt, but the capacity to act decisively despite its presence. Doubt becomes problematic when it is no longer a useful pause for reflection, but a chronic state that keeps us perpetually hesitant, like a car with one foot on the brake and one on the accelerator. This creates tremendous friction and wastes precious energy. Most people do not realize how much of their life energy is consumed by doubt. The mental back and forth, the internal debates, the rehearsal of possible failures, all of this requires tremendous energy that could otherwise be directed toward creative action. And there is something even more subtle at work. When you doubt consistently, You send a powerful message to your deeper consciousness. I cannot be trusted with my own life. This undermines the very foundation of self-confidence and creates a cycle that reinforces itself over time. The good news is that just as doubt can be learned, it can be unlearned. Just as confusion can become a habit, clarity can also become your natural state. To transcend doubt, we must understand its structure, how it operates in the mind and body, how it influences our perception and decision-making. Doubt typically follows a predictable pattern. First comes a thought or an idea, perhaps an inspiration, an opportunity, or a new possibility. Then, almost immediately, the questioning begins. Can I really do this? What if I fail? Who am I to think I could succeed at this? What will others think? This questioning triggers physiological changes, subtle tensions in the body, changes in breathing, perhaps a feeling of heaviness or constriction. These physical sensations then reinforce the doubtful thoughts, creating a loop that feels increasingly real and compelling. Finally, we make decisions based not on what is possible or desirable, but on what feels safe, given our doubt-constricted perception. Understanding this pattern is the first step toward freedom from doubt's limiting influence. When you can recognize doubt arising before it fully takes hold, you create the possibility of choosing a different response. This is not about suppressing doubt or forcing yourself to be positive. It is about seeing doubt clearly for what it is, a pattern of thinking and feeling that has been learned and can therefore be unlearned. At its core, doubt is intimately connected with fear. In fact, we might say that doubt is how fear expresses itself through the thinking mind. Fear says, there is danger. Doubt says, you are not capable of handling this situation. Fear says, protect yourself. Doubt says, the safest choice is to do nothing. Fear occurs in the body as a physiological response. Doubt occurs in the mind as a series of hesitant thoughts. Yet they are two aspects of the same fundamental experience, a contraction away from life rather than an expansion into its possibilities. What is most interesting about both fear and doubt is that they are rarely based on present reality. They are almost always projections about the future or reactions based on past experiences. In the actual present moment, this breath, these sensations, this awareness, there is rarely anything to fear and therefore nothing to doubt. It is only when the mind projects into the future or dwells in the past that fear and doubt find their footing. This insight points to a profound truth. The antidote to both fear and doubt is fuller presence in the here and now, not as an escape from reality, but as a more direct engagement with what is actually real, rather than what the mind imagines might happen. I remember walking alone in a forest during a retreat many years ago. As darkness fell, I noticed fear arising. Fear of wild animals, of getting lost, of unseen dangers. With the fear came doubt about my decision to take this walk, doubt about my capacity to find my way back, doubt about my own judgment. Rather than being carried away by these thoughts, I paused and brought my attention fully to the present moment. The sensation of my feet on the earth, the sound of the wind in the trees, the coolness of the evening air on my skin. In that moment of complete presence, fear and doubt dissolved, not because the situation had changed, but because my relationship to it had shifted from imagination to direct experience. This does not mean that fear and doubt never serve a purpose. Sometimes they alert us to genuine danger or signal that we need more information before proceeding. The key is discerning when they are serving you and when they are limiting you unnecessarily. Our experience of doubt is not merely personal. It is shaped by the collective beliefs and values of our society, family, and culture. We are taught what is realistic to expect from life, what we should desire, and what limitations we should accept. These collective doubts are often so pervasive that we don't even recognize them as doubts. They simply appear as the way things are. Yet they profoundly influence what we believe is possible for our lives. Consider how often you have heard phrases like "be practical and realistic," "don't get your hopes up." That's just how life is. People like us don't do things like that. These statements reflect collective doubt that has become institutionalized as wisdom or common sense. Yet throughout history, the greatest innovations, art, spiritual insights, and social changes have come from those willing to question these collective limitations. This is not about blind optimism or denying the challenges of life. It is about recognizing that much of what we accept as reality is actually a consensus view that can be questioned and transcended. The mind that is shaped by collective doubt sees limitations everywhere. The mind that has awakened to its own potential sees possibilities that others miss. I have observed this in working with people from many different backgrounds. Those who grow up in environments where big dreams are encouraged tend to attempt more and achieve more. Those surrounded by collective doubt often struggle to believe in possibilities beyond what they have already seen demonstrated. Yet I have also witnessed the remarkable transformation that occurs when someone recognizes and challenges the collective doubts they have inherited. It is as if they suddenly have permission to access abilities and opportunities that were always there but remained invisible while doubt clouded their perception. Let us now examine how doubt manifests in our everyday existence and decision-making processes. It is rarely dramatic. More often, it appears as subtle hesitation in the small moments that ultimately shape our lives. Consider these common manifestations. Procrastination is often doubt disguised as "I'll do it later." Behind the postponement is usually uncertainty about your ability to do something well or fear of what might happen if you proceed. Excessive planning can be doubt masquerading as thoroughness. While preparation is valuable, at some point, additional planning becomes a way to avoid taking action because of underlying doubt. Seeking excessive opinions before making decisions often reflects doubt in your own judgment. While counsel from others can be valuable, constantly needing external validation before proceeding reveals a fundamental lack of trust in yourself. Abandoning projects midway frequently stems from doubt that arises when initial enthusiasm meets inevitable challenges. The doubt whispers that perhaps this wasn't the right path after all, and many potentially valuable endeavors are left unfinished as a result. Self-sabotage occurs when doubt becomes so uncomfortable that you unconsciously create situations that justify abandoning your path, thereby relieving the tension of uncertainty. These patterns operate in decisions both large and small, from what career to pursue to whether to speak up in a meeting. Over time, they shape not only your external circumstances, but your fundamental sense of who you are and what is possible for your life. When doubt becomes the primary lens through which you view life's possibilities, decision-making becomes increasingly difficult. You may find yourself caught in endless loops of hesitation, unable to commit fully to any direction. This state of perpetual uncertainty creates what psychologists call decision fatigue, a depletion of mental energy resulting from the constant internal debate about what to do next. In this depleted state, you become more likely to either avoid decisions entirely or make them based on what requires the least immediate mental effort, rather than what serves your deepest values and aspirations. The most insidious effect of chronic doubt is that it often becomes self-fulfilling. When you act with doubt, you typically act tentatively, with divided energy and attention. This half-hearted engagement makes positive outcomes less likely, which then confirms that your doubt was justified, reinforcing the cycle. Imagine walking across a narrow beam. If you do so with doubt, constantly questioning your balance, visualizing falling, second-guessing each step, you dramatically increase the likelihood of losing your balance. The doubt itself contributes to the outcome you fear. By contrast, when you act with clarity and conviction, even when facing the same external circumstances, you bring your full resources to the situation. Your perception is sharper, your energy more focused, your creativity more accessible. This wholehearted engagement makes positive outcomes more likely, which builds confidence for future actions. This is not magical thinking, it is a practical recognition of how our internal state shapes our interaction with the external world. Doubt divides and diminishes our resources, clarity unifies and amplifies them. There is a price we pay for harboring doubt, and it is far greater than most realize. Doubt is not merely an uncomfortable feeling that passes, it is an energy that permeates your entire being and influences every action you take or fail to take. When you doubt yourself consistently, several things happen. First, your energy diminishes. Doubt requires mental effort, the constant weighing of options, the repetitive questioning, the internal debate. This consumes the very energy you need to take decisive action. Second, opportunities begin to pass you by. While you hesitate, the world continues to move. Doors that were once open slowly close, not because you are not worthy of passing through them, but simply because you did not walk through while they were open. Third, and perhaps most significant, doubt becomes a habit of mind. The more you doubt, the more your brain becomes wired for doubt. What begins as uncertainty about specific situations gradually becomes a lens through which you view all of life. The neural pathways associated with doubt become strengthened through repetition, making doubt your default response to new situations. This happens below the threshold of conscious awareness, so that doubt begins to feel normal and inevitable, rather than a mental habit that can be changed. Fourth, doubt creates distance between you and others. When you doubt yourself, you often hide your true thoughts and feelings, fearing judgment or rejection. This prevents authentic connection and creates a sense of isolation that further reinforces doubt. Fifth, doubt obscures your unique gifts and contributions. Each person comes into this world with particular qualities, perspectives, and potential offerings. When doubt dominates, these gifts remain unexpressed, not only depriving you of fulfillment, but also withholding from the world what only you can contribute. Let me share something I've observed. Two people can face identical circumstances with vastly different outcomes based solely on the presence or absence of doubt. The one who moves forward with conviction, even if imperfectly, will almost always achieve more than the one who hesitates with perfect plans. There is wisdom in understanding that life rewards committed action, not perfect preparation. I once worked with a gifted musician who had been composing beautiful music for years but had never shared it publicly. When I asked why, he explained that he was waiting until he felt his work was good enough, a standard that continuously evolved as his skills improved, keeping his creations perpetually in the realm of not yet ready. The cost of his doubt was not merely personal, it was the countless people who might have been moved, comforted, or inspired by his music over those years. When he finally began sharing his work, the positive response was overwhelming, revealing how much his doubt had cost both himself and others. This pattern repeats across all domains of human endeavor. Relationships never pursued, businesses never started, healing never offered, art never created, ideas never expressed, all because of the paralyzing effect of doubt. The collective cost is incalculable. A world with fewer innovations, less beauty, diminished healing, and countless inspired actions never taken. This is the true price of doubt, not merely personal limitation, but the diminishment of our shared human experience. Now, let us examine something deeper, the connection between doubt and suffering. When you doubt, you create a division within yourself. Part of you wants to move forward. Another part holds back. This internal conflict is the essence of suffering. You are quite literally at war with yourself. Observe how doubt creates a gap between the present moment and some imagined future. In this gap lives anxiety, stress, and a peculiar form of suffering that comes from not being fully committed to what is happening now. The mind says, yes, but what if? And with those words, your attention is pulled from the richness of the present into the phantom realm of what might be. This mental habit of gap creation, this constant measuring of what is against what could be or should be, is perhaps the primary source of human unhappiness. When you are fully immersed in what is happening now, suffering cannot take hold. It is only when you step away from present reality into mental projections that suffering finds a foothold. This is not to say that planning for the future is unwise. Rather, it is the attachment to particular outcomes combined with doubt about your ability to handle whatever comes that creates suffering. Consider the wisdom in this: the future has not yet arrived, and when it does, it will be the present moment. So your power never lies in worrying about what might happen, but in developing the capacity to be fully present with what is happening. When doubt arises, and it will, the practice is not to fight against it or suppress it, but to see it clearly for what it is, a thought, a temporary weather pattern moving through the vast sky of your awareness. I am reminded of an ancient teaching story. A master was traveling with a student who carried their provisions. At one point, they stopped by a stream to rest. The student placed the heavy bag on a large rock while they refreshed themselves in the cool water. When it was time to continue their journey, the student went to retrieve the bag, but found it was difficult to lift. While they had been resting, water had seeped into the lower part of the bag, making it considerably heavier. The master observed the student struggling and said, "The bag has not grown heavier by itself. It has absorbed what was already all around it. So it is with doubt and suffering. The mind absorbs worries, projections, and fears that surround us in our daily environment, through news media, conversations focused on problems, and the general climate of anxiety that pervades modern society. Over time, these absorbed concerns make our mental load heavier than it needs to be. The practice is to periodically wring out this absorbed doubt through mindful awareness, returning to the essential lightness of being that is your natural state. Here is a paradox worth contemplating. Absolute certainty about outcomes is impossible in an ever-changing world, yet it is possible to live with unshakable inner certainty, regardless of external circumstances. How can this be? Because true certainty does not come from controlling the external world or predicting outcomes with perfect accuracy. It comes from knowing that whatever happens, you have the capacity to respond with wisdom and presence. This is what the ancient teachings point to, not a life without challenges, but a mind capable of meeting each challenge with clarity and purpose. When the boat is rocked by waves, the wise sailor does not try to calm the ocean, an impossible task. Instead, they learn to steady themselves, to find balance even as everything moves. This is the art of living with certainty amidst uncertainty. I once spoke with a man who had lost everything, his business, his savings, his home, during an economic crisis. When I asked him how he found the strength to begin again, he said something I will never forget. I realized that everything I had was already borrowed from life. When it was taken away, I was simply returning what was never truly mine.
What remained was what had always been mine, my capacity to begin again. In his words, I heard the wisdom of someone who had transcended doubt by understanding a fundamental truth. Our security never lies in external circumstances, but in our capacity to respond to life as it unfolds. This is the essence of unshakable success, not the achievement of particular outcomes, but the development of an inner clarity that remains steadfast regardless of external conditions. The paradox deepens when we recognize that this inner certainty actually makes desired outcomes more likely. When you act from clarity rather than doubt, your perception is sharper, your energy more focused, your creativity more accessible. This makes you more effective in whatever you undertake. So while certainty about specific outcomes remains impossible in a complex and changing world, certainty about your capacity to meet life as it unfolds is not only possible but essential for both inner peace and outer effectiveness. Now let us shift perspective and consider something rarely discussed: doubt as a doorway to deeper wisdom. When doubt arises with awareness, when you can observe it rather than being consumed by it, it often points to areas where growth is possible. Your doubt may be revealing limiting beliefs that are ready to be examined and transformed. In this way, doubt can be a teacher if you are willing to listen deeply to what it reveals about your relationship with yourself and the world. Ask yourself, what is this doubt trying to show me? What belief about myself or life is at its root? Is this belief serving my highest good and the good of others? Sometimes doubt arises not because you are incapable or unworthy, but because you are standing at the threshold of significant growth. The old self doubts because it senses its imminent transformation. The caterpillar might doubt the process of entering the chrysalis if it could sink, not realizing that its doubt is merely resistance to becoming the butterfly it is destined to be. There is wisdom in understanding that periods of intense doubt often precede periods of significant expansion. The doubt itself can be a sign that you are approaching a new threshold in your development. I have observed this in my own journey, and in working with others. The greatest growth often begins with a period of profound uncertainty. This is natural, for you are leaving the familiar territory of the known and stepping into the uncharted realm of new possibilities. Rather than interpreting doubt as evidence of incapacity, you might view it as a natural response to standing at the edge of your current understanding. The discomfort you feel is not a signal to retreat, but an invitation to expand your awareness to encompass new dimensions of experience. This perspective transforms doubt from an obstacle to a gateway. Instead of asking, "How can I get rid of this doubt?" you might ask, "What is this doubt inviting me to understand or become?" When approached with this attitude of curious exploration rather than resistance, doubt often reveals insights that would remain hidden if you simply tried to push it away or override it with forced positivity.
Let us pause here to reflect. Take a moment to consider what doubts have been most persistent in your life. What might they be inviting you to examine or transcend? We have explored the nature of doubt as an obstacle to our true potential, examining its roots in fear, its manifestations in daily life and decision-making, and its relationship to suffering. We have also considered the paradoxical nature of certainty and the possibility of seeing doubt itself as a doorway to deeper understanding. The key insights from this exploration include: doubt is not inherently negative, but becomes problematic when it becomes a chronic state that prevents wholehearted engagement with life. Beneath doubt lies fear, and beneath fear lies a fundamental misunderstanding about who we truly are. Doubt manifests in daily life as procrastination, excessive planning, seeking excessive opinions, abandoning projects, and self-sabotage. The cost of persistent doubt includes diminished energy, missed opportunities, doubt becoming a mental habit, distance in relationships, and unexpressed gifts. Doubt creates internal division that leads to suffering by pulling attention from the present moment into imagined futures. While certainty about outcomes is impossible, inner certainty based on your capacity to respond to life is both possible and essential. Doubt can serve as a doorway to growth when approached with awareness rather than resistance. As we move forward to explore the path from doubt to unshakable confidence, remember that the goal is not to eliminate doubt entirely, a natural function of the thinking mind, but to develop a relationship with doubt that prevents it from limiting your full engagement with life. The journey from doubt to certainty is not about becoming someone different, but about recognizing and embodying the clarity and strengths that have always been your true nature. As the practices we've explored become integrated into daily life, a new way of being naturally emerges, one characterized not by the absence of doubt, but by the presence of something more fundamental and true. This unshakable confidence is not based on what you know or what you can do. It is not dependent on skills, achievements, or external validation. It arises from direct recognition of your essential nature, the awareness in which all experiences, including doubt, appear and disappear. When you know yourself as this awareness, rather than as the limited personality that doubt attacks, you discover a confidence that cannot be shaken by circumstances or outcomes. This is not spiritual theory, but practical reality, a direct shift in the foundation of your identity. From this shifted foundation, several qualities naturally emerge. Authenticity becomes effortless. When you no longer need to prove your worth or protect an image, you can show up as you truly are in each moment. This authenticity is not self-indulgence, but honest expression of your unique perspective and gifts. Creativity flows more readily when the mind is no longer constrained by doubt's limiting narratives. New possibilities naturally emerge. Solutions to problems, innovative approaches, and fresh perspectives arise spontaneously from the clarity of awareness. Resilience strengthens when your sense of self is no longer attached to particular outcomes or opinions. Setbacks no longer threaten your fundamental well-being. You can meet difficulties with equanimity and learn from them without being defined by them. Compassion deepens as you recognize that your own doubt and limitation arose from misunderstanding your true nature. You naturally extend this understanding to others. Their doubts, fears, and reactive behaviors are seen not as personal failings, but as expressions of the same universal confusion that once limited you. Decisive action becomes natural. When doubt no longer divides your energy and attention, you can commit fully to whatever situation requires. This is not impulsive reaction, but clear response arising from undivided presence. These qualities are not achievements to be attained through effort, but natural expressions of your essential nature. When the veils of doubt and misidentification have been lifted by awareness, the journey from doubt to unshakable confidence is ultimately a return to what you have always been beneath the mind's confused interpretations. It is a homecoming to the clarity, strength, and wisdom that are your birthright, qualities that have never actually been absent, but only obscured by doubt's distorting lens. I am reminded of a teaching story about a beggar
who sat for years on an old box, receiving small coins from passers-by. One day, a stranger asked what was in the box. The beggar replied that he had never looked inside. When encouraged to do so, he discovered the box was filled with gold. He had been sitting on a fortune while begging for pennies. So it is with our true nature. While caught in doubt's trance, we seek confidence, clarity, and fulfillment from external sources, not realizing that these qualities are already present as our essential being. The journey is not about acquiring what is lacking, but uncovering what has always been here. Let us now examine more deeply two interrelated practices that are particularly powerful in dissolving doubt and revealing unshakable confidence: the practice of presence and detachment from outcomes. Presence is not a special state to achieve, but your natural condition when not carried away by thought. It is characterized by direct, non-conceptual awareness of what is happening within and around you in this moment. Detachment from outcomes doesn't mean not caring about results, but recognizing that true effectiveness comes from full engagement with the process rather than fixation on specific outcomes. These practices work together to create a foundation for action that is both powerfully effective and deeply peaceful, a combination that dissolves doubt at its source. While we've touched on presence throughout our exploration, let's examine some specific approaches that deepen this practice and make it available even in challenging circumstances. The practice of pausing creates space between stimulus and response, interrupting habitual reactions and allowing fresh perception. When doubt arises, simply pause, take a conscious breath, feel your feet on the ground. This brief interruption can prevent doubt from automatically determining your next action. The practice of sensory awareness anchors attention in direct experience rather than conceptual thinking. Regularly, throughout the day, pause to notice what you can see, hear, feel, taste, and smell in this moment. This simple shift from thinking to sensing immediately brings you into present awareness. The practice of listening with full attention develops the capacity to be present with others without the filter of preconceptions. When someone speaks, can you listen not only to their words, but to the being behind the words?
This deep listening often reveals understanding and connection that doubt-filled thinking would miss. The practice of engaging fully with simple tasks builds the muscle of presence. When washing dishes, can you be completely with the sensations of water, the movement of your hands, the transformation from dirty to clean? When walking, can you give yourself fully to each step? This capacity to be completely engaged with simple activities gradually extends to more complex situations. The practice of recognizing awareness itself points attention not just to the contents of experience, but to the aware space in which all experiences appear. Throughout the day, ask who or what is aware of this experience. This question directs attention to awareness itself, your most fundamental nature that remains unchanged amidst the constantly changing flow of experiences. These practices, done consistently over time, gradually shift your center of gravity from identification with thought to resting as awareness itself. This shift is subtle but profound, transforming your relationship with doubt at the most fundamental level. I have found that regular contact with nature greatly supports the practice of presence. There is something about natural settings that invites the mind to quiet and awareness to expand. Whether it's sitting beside a stream, walking in a forest, or gazing at the night sky, nature offers a direct portal to presence that can be more difficult to access in human-created environments. The practice of detachment from outcomes directly addresses a primary source of doubt, fear about what happened and whether you can handle it. This fear creates a division between where you are and where you think you should be, between what is happening and what you think should happen. Detachment dissolves this division by bringing your full presence and best effort to what you are doing, while releasing attachment to what happens as a result. This creates a paradoxical but very real increase in effectiveness, combined with a profound peace that doubt cannot disturb. Several practices support this detachment. The practice of offering transforms how you approach activities. Rather than doing things to get particular results, you offer your action as a gift to others, to life itself, to the greater good. This subtle shift in motivation creates space for outcomes to unfold naturally without the constriction of personal demand. The practice of dedication involves mentally dedicating the benefits of your actions to all beings rather than just yourself. This expands your perspective beyond personal gain or loss, creating a context for action that transcends the small self's fears and demands. The practice of gratitude for whatever arises, whether it matches your preferences or not, gradually dissolves the mind's insistence that life should conform to its expectations. By finding value in what is actually happening, rather than resisting it in favor of what you think should happen, you create conditions for genuine acceptance and wise response. The practice of remembering impermanence reduces attachment to particular outcomes by recognizing that all conditions are constantly changing. The success you achieve today will transform into something else tomorrow. The failure you fear may contain the seeds of unexpected growth. This perspective doesn't diminish commitment, but places it in a larger context that's less vulnerable to doubt's distortions. The practice of doing what's yours to do involves discerning what action is truly yours to take in a given situation, while recognizing that the ultimate outcome depends on countless factors beyond your control. You focus on bringing your clearest intention and fullest presence to what is yours to do, trusting the larger unfolding to a wisdom greater than the personal mind. These practices gradually transform how you engage with life's challenges and opportunities. Rather than being driven by attachment to particular outcomes which inevitably generates doubt and anxiety, you act from presence and clarity, while allowing results to unfold according to their own nature. This approach directly counteracts the doubtful mind's insistence that it must control outcomes to be safe or successful. It reveals a more effective way of operating that combines full engagement with deep peace, a combination that doubt cannot penetrate. I have observed this principle operating in many domains, from artistic creation to business leadership, from healing work to social change initiatives. Those who combine full commitment to the process with detachment from specific outcomes consistently demonstrate both greater effectiveness and greater well-being than those caught in the tension of outcome attachment. As we near the conclusion of our exploration of the path to unshakable confidence, let us consider how awareness and action integrate to create a life of clarity, purpose, and freedom from doubt's limiting influence. There is a common misconception that awareness practices lead to passivity or withdrawal from worldly engagement. In reality, genuine awareness creates the foundation for action that is both more effective and more beneficial, because it arises from clarity rather than confusion. The integration of awareness and action manifests as what might be called responsive presence, the capacity to meet each situation with both full awareness and appropriate response. This response emerges not from conditioned patterns or doubtful hesitation, but from direct perception of what the moment actually calls for.
In this integration, there is no conflict between being and doing. Presence infuses action, action expresses presence. The artificial division between spiritual practice and practical life dissolves into a unified approach to all experience. This integration manifests in several ways. Speaking truth becomes natural when awareness reveals what is actually happening rather than what the doubting mind projects. Your words arise not from rehearsed scripts or people-pleasing patterns, but from direct perception of what needs to be expressed in each situation. Making decisions flows more easily when awareness cuts through the complexity that doubt creates. Rather than endless weighing of options and second-guessing, decisions emerge from clarity about what truly matters in the given circumstances. Setting boundaries becomes both firmer and kinder when awareness reveals what is yours to carry and what isn't. You can say no without guilt and yes without resentment because your responses are aligned with inner truth rather than outer pressure. Taking risks unfolds naturally when awareness reveals that your fundamental well-being does not depend on external outcomes. You can step into uncertainty with both courage and peace, knowing that whatever happens, your essential nature remains untouched. Facing criticism no longer triggers defensive reaction when awareness shows the difference between useful feedback and projections that have more to do with the critic than with you. You can listen with openness while discerning what is yours to consider and what isn't. In each of these areas, the integration of awareness and action dissolves the division that doubt creates. There is no longer a hesitant self trying to figure out what to do. There is only responsive presence meeting life as it unfolds. This integration is not an endpoint but an ever-deepening process. As awareness grows, action becomes increasingly aligned with the wisdom and compassion that are your true nature. As action expresses this alignment, life circumstances naturally evolve to support further awakening of awareness. The journey from doubt to unshakable confidence thus becomes a self-reinforcing spiral of increasing clarity, effectiveness, and well-being, not because you've eliminated doubt from the mind, but because you've recognized your true identity as the awareness in which doubt, like all experiences, appears and disappears. We have explored the path from doubt to unshakable confidence, examining practices and perspectives that dissolve doubt at its source rather than merely suppressing its symptoms. The key elements of this path include moving beyond positive thinking to recognize your identity as awareness rather than thought, developing self-observation that creates space between you and doubtful thoughts, cultivating mindfulness in daily life and using the body as an anchor of presence, transforming limiting beliefs by questioning their validity and recognizing deeper truth, practicing present moment awareness that dissolves doubt by bringing you into direct contact with reality as it is now, developing detachment from outcomes while maintaining full commitment to the process, using meditation to become familiar with the nature of mind and recognize your essential nature. Practicing surrender to wisdom greater than the personal mind's limited understanding, developing courage to take action despite doubt when values and purpose call for movement, cultivating patience with the organic timing of genuine transformation, integrating confidence into daily life through progressive application in increasingly challenging circumstances, living from unshakable confidence that emerges from recognition of your essential nature. This path is not about achieving a perfect state where doubt never arises. It is about developing a new relationship with doubt that prevents it from limiting your full engagement with life. Doubt may still appear in the mind, but it no longer defines your sense of possibility or determines your actions. The confidence that emerges from this path is not the fragile self-assurance that depends on favorable circumstances or continuous success. It is the unshakable certainty that arises from direct recognition of who you truly are beneath the mind's confused interpretations. This recognition is not intellectual but experiential. It comes through consistent practice that gradually reveals what has always been true, that your essential nature transcends the limitations that doubt projects.
The journey from doubt to unshakable confidence is ultimately a return home to yourself, to the clarity, strength, and wisdom that are your birthright, qualities that have never actually been absent but only obscured by doubt's distorting lens. As unshakable certainty becomes more established in your life, a natural question often emerges. How can I express this clarity in service to something larger than my personal satisfaction or achievement? This question points toward what might be called living your deepest purpose, allowing your unique capacities and perspective to serve needs that align with your deepest values. This orientation toward purpose differs fundamentally from conventional goal setting or career planning. Rather than starting with what you want to achieve or acquire, it begins with listening deeply to where your genuine gifts intersect with needs you feel called to address. Several qualities characterize this approach to purpose. Discovery rather than invention is the primary mode of finding purpose. Instead of creating a purpose through force of will or imagination, you uncover what has always been present as your unique contribution. This discovery often emerges gradually through paying attention to what naturally engages your full energy and attention while also contributing to others. Emergent rather than predetermined paths become the norm. While the mind craves detailed 5-year plans and clear objectives, authentic purpose tends to reveal itself step by step as you move in the general direction of your deepest values. Like following a trail through a forest that becomes visible only as you proceed, purpose unfolds through action rather than being fully mapped in advance. Integration of being and doing characterizes purposeful activity, rather than purpose being something you pursue separate from your essential nature. It becomes the natural expression of who you are. The artificial division between inner development and outer contribution dissolves as purpose flows from your deepest being rather than being imposed from outside. Multiple expressions rather than a single track typically emerge as purpose manifests. Rather than having one purpose that defines your entire life, you recognize how your unique gifts can address different needs in different contexts. Purpose becomes more like a river with multiple channels than a single pipeline from source to destination. Evolution over time characterizes how purpose expresses as you develop and circumstances change. What constitutes your most authentic contribution at one phase of life may differ from what emerges as most important in another phase. Purpose remains dynamic rather than static, responsive to both inner development and changing outer conditions. I have observed that those who approach purpose with these qualities in mind tend to find more sustainable and fulfilling paths than those who force predetermined goals or cling to fixed identities about their role or contribution. The mind governed by doubt constantly seeks certainty about purpose through defining clear objectives and measurable outcomes. The mind informed by wisdom recognizes that true purpose emerges most clearly when you show up fully for what is before you now, while remaining attentive to the larger currents moving through your life. This approach to purpose requires both courage and patience. Courage to step forward without complete clarity about where the path leads, and patience to allow authentic direction to emerge rather than forcing premature definition. Perhaps most importantly,
Living from purpose requires trust in a wisdom greater than the planning mind, a recognition that your unique life has significance beyond what the limited perspective of the separate self can comprehend or design. As we explore living from certainty, it's essential to reconstitute true success. The mind dominated by doubt typically defines success through external achievements, acquisitions, and recognition, metrics that are never fully satisfying because they depend on constantly shifting comparisons and standards. Living from certainty includes recognizing a deeper definition of success, one based not on what you have or achieve, but on the quality of presence and authenticity you bring to life. This perspective transforms both how you evaluate your own life and what you recognize as truly valuable in others. Several dimensions characterize this deeper success. Alignment between values and actions becomes a primary measure of success rather than outcomes alone. A life where what you do expresses what you most deeply value, regardless of external recognition or reward, manifests a coherence and integrity that achievement without alignment cannot provide. Quality of presence in ordinary moments becomes as important as extraordinary accomplishments. The capacity to be fully available to whatever life presents, whether mundane tasks, challenging circumstances, or significant opportunities, creates a richness of experience that acquisition and achievement alone cannot match. Authentic expression of your unique perspective and gifts becomes central to meaningful contribution. Rather than conforming to external expectations about what success should look like, you recognize the distinctive value of your particular way of seeing and responding to life. Service that flows from wholeness rather than need defines successful contribution. When giving emerges from the natural expression of your gifts rather than attempt to prove worth or earn approval, it carries a quality that serves both giver and receiver simultaneously. Learning and growth through all experiences transforms how failure and success are understood. When both desired and undesired outcomes are approached as opportunities for deepening wisdom and capacity, every experience becomes valuable regardless of whether it matches expectations. This perspective on success liberates tremendous energy that would otherwise be consumed by trying to meet external or internalized standards that never quite satisfy the doubt-filled mind. It creates space for authentic contribution that emerges from your unique combination of capacities, values, and life experience. I have observed that individuals who embody this deeper success often achieve remarkable external results as a byproduct of their alignment and authenticity. However, these outcomes emerge organically from full engagement with what truly matters, rather than being the primary driver of action. The paradox of this approach is that when success is defined by presence, alignment, and authentic expression rather than specific achievements, you often accomplish more of genuine value than when directly pursuing outcomes for their own sake. As we conclude our exploration of living from certainty, let us consider what constitutes the essence of unshakable success, the core qualities that emerge when doubt no longer limits your full engagement with life. This success is unshakable not because external circumstances remain perpetually favorable or because you achieve perfection in any domain. It is unshakable because it is grounded in recognition of your true nature rather than depending on changing conditions or continuous achievement. Several essential qualities characterize this state.
Presence becomes your natural condition rather than something you struggle to achieve. The capacity to be fully here now with people, with tasks, with whatever life presents flows without effort, because you recognize that the present moment is where life actually happens. Authenticity emerges as the gap closes between who you truly are and how you express in the world. The energy previously consumed by maintaining images and meeting expectations becomes available for genuine connection and creative response to life as it unfolds. Resilience develops naturally as you recognize that your fundamental well-being does not depend on particular circumstances or outcomes. This creates capacity to navigate both success and failure, pleasure and pain, gain and loss without being defined by any of these changing conditions. Connection with others deepens as defense mechanisms and management strategies give way to genuine availability. When doubt no longer creates constant self-monitoring and self-protection, authentic relationship becomes possible in ways that were previously inaccessible. Contribution flows naturally as an expression of your unique perspective and capacities rather than as attempt to prove worth or accumulate merit. This service carries a distinctive quality that emerges only when giving is untainted by personal agendas or need for recognition. Joy arises not from acquiring what you want or avoiding what you don't want, but from direct recognition of the gift of existence itself. This joy remains available regardless of external circumstances because it flows from awareness of the miracle of being rather than depending on particular experiences. These qualities constitute what might be called success from the inside out, a way of being in the world that transforms both subjective experience and objective results. Rather than pursuing these qualities directly as achievements to acquire, they emerge naturally as the veils of doubt dissolve through the practices and perspectives we've explored. I have observed that individuals who embody these qualities often achieve remarkable external results as well, not because they are pursuing achievement as their primary aim, but because clarity, presence, and authentic expression naturally create conditions for effective action in whatever domains they engage. The ultimate paradox of unshakable success is that it emerges not from solving the problem of doubt through extraordinary effort or achievement, but from recognizing that the doubt-filled separate self was never your true identity in the first place. What appeared as a difficult journey of overcoming limitation reveals itself as a return to what has always been your essential nature. This recognition does not diminish the value of the specific practices and perspectives we've explored. These approaches serve as skillful means for clearing away what obscures your true nature and allowing its qualities to express more fully in lived experience. They are not creating something new, but revealing what has always been present beneath the mind's confused interpretations. We have explored the nature of doubt as an obstacle to our true potential, the path to unshakable confidence, and what becomes possible when living from a state of certainty. Throughout this journey, we have emphasized practices and perspectives that dissolve doubt at its source rather than merely suppressing its symptoms or temporarily overriding its influence. The key insights from our exploration include: doubt is not your enemy but a function of the mind trying to protect you from the unknown. It becomes problematic when it creates chronic hesitation that prevents wholehearted engagement with life. Beneath doubt lies fear, and beneath fear lies a fundamental misunderstanding about who you truly are. When you recognize your essential nature as awareness rather than the limited personality that doubt attacks, unshakable confidence naturally emerges. The path to certainty includes practices such as self-observation, mindfulness in daily life, transforming limiting beliefs, present moment awareness, detachment from outcomes, meditation, surrender, and courage to act despite uncertainty.
Living from certainty manifests as decisive action, flow state, wholehearted commitment, balance during challenges, integration of wisdom into everyday life, authentic expression of purpose, and success that transcends mere achievement. Unshakable success emerges not from solving the problem of doubt through extraordinary effort, but from recognizing that your true identity transcends the doubt-filled separate self altogether. What appeared as a difficult journey reveals itself as a return to what has always been your essential nature. As we close this exploration, I invite you to consider not just what you've heard, but what resonates with your own direct experience. The ultimate authority for what is true and valuable in this teaching is not my words, but your own deeper knowing that recognizes truth when it is encountered. The invitation is not to believe or accept these perspectives based on external authority, but to test them in the laboratory of your own life. Notice what happens when you apply these practices and perspectives to your actual experience. Do they create more freedom or constraint, more clarity or confusion, more authentic connection or separation? Your own experience will reveal what serves your unfolding and what doesn't. Remember that the journey from doubt to certainty is not linear progression toward a perfect state, but an ongoing unfolding that includes both expansion and contraction, clarity and confusion, ease and challenge. Each phase, when met with awareness rather than resistance, contributes to the deepening and stabilizing of wisdom in lived experience. The practices and perspectives we've explored are not creating anything new, but removing the obstacles to recognizing what has always been true beneath the mind's confused interpretations. Like clearing clouds that obscure the sun, this work reveals the light that has always been present rather than manufacturing illumination where there was none. As you continue your own unfolding, may you increasingly recognize the unshakable certainty that is your birthright, not as distant achievement to strive toward, but as the very ground of being that you have always been. And may that recognition express itself as both inner peace and effective action that contributes your unique gifts to our shared world. Take a moment now to feel the truth of who you are beneath the mind stories of limitation and doubt. This recognition is always available, regardless of circumstances or mental states. It is the foundation of unshakable success that no external condition can grant or take away. Thank you for sharing this exploration. May it serve your journey in ways both seen and unseen.